Lights, camera, chemical reaction. Attracted to a body alive.
Fuck all of you.
No, no, John. You were supposed to come over to our side.
This is the moment I've been waiting for, Dylan. The moment where we kill each other over music.
This is what you think, but you don't know my full opinion on this album yet.
Okay, well hold on.
You don't know it.
Hold your horses, there, buddy, because we gotta introduce a little friend. We gotta guess.
He's actually like fucking huge.
No. He's mentally small.
No,
I'm just a mental
midget.
Okay, I don't want to do this for him. I want you to say your name, and then I want you to do one sentence. That's all you're gonna get to describe yourself.
I'm John Cruz, and I'm a fuck.
I gave you one chance. You ruined it. Now I have to do your job for you.
Good.
His name is JJ, and he's a fuck.
Hi, I'm JJ.
And he is going to be joining us for our episode of Musical Suds, where today
John
we're gonna
bends over for the soap.
We're gonna. I don't even. Alright. We're gonna review the new Roots album.
Called "And Then You Shoot Your Cousin."
Yeah, and then you shoot your cousin. I mean, Dylan, you're the hip hop addict. Why don't you tell me?
The hip hop addict.
Tell me about the Roots.
The Roots album is supposedly a concept album following the release of the highly successful, or Among Us, I guess. I don't know if it was really successful.
Everyone liked it.
I thought it went pretty well, but Undone, which was amazing.
And also a concept album.
Yeah.
With a pretty clear concept.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So, the Roots thought that they could, follow this up with another amazing album, and that is up for our interpretation.
That is up for interpretation, and the Roots are pretty well known for being consistent.
Oh yeah.
They're always known to release something that is going to be pretty good or pretty great. Usually they release pretty good stuff. I haven't really heard an album by them that I didn't like. So, pretty high expectations for the Roots, especially because
absolutely.
Undone is arguably my favorite Roots album.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, I really loved Undone. So, and when they announced this new album, I think there was a lot of hype. And I listened to a few of the tracks before it was released, and I thought they were solid.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not really that big on this album. I'm actually deeply disappointed. So
Deeply?
Deeply.
Oh.
Very deep. Oh.
Well, so when I first listened to this album, I was disappointed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exceptionally disappointed, because I just went, there's like 3 tracks on here that I'm actually even digging a little bit. I mean, don't even get me started on Never, the second track, because that chick's voice, sounds like a dying cat.
I was thinking Helium.
Yeah,
like,
Helium.
Either way, it's all categories of bad.
I mean, come on. I woke up with a teardrop.
It was great.
Yeah. It's
Musical
so
genius.
But the thing that kept going through my mind was, doesn't even stand up to, Undone. Doesn't stand up to it. It's not even close, and I just kept giving it a chance. And I've had this since it was released.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got it the day after it was released, and I've listened to it a lot. Probably more than the Silver Mounts Ion.
Well, it's really easy to listen to.
Especially
as well.
since it's like 30 minutes.
It's nice and short for KJ.
Say, like when I was mowing the lawn, I got like 4 listens in. I was like, Jesus, that doesn't even take me that long.
Yeah. So that was something I noticed right off the bat, and then I tried something different. I just completely threw out all my thoughts and expectations concerning Undone, and I listened to the album as its own thing.
Okay.
And I tried to forget, that it was the Roots, even though it has a Roots sound. It really does. and I found that I was enjoying it a whole hell of a lot more. I mean, there was still like things that bugged me, like the chick's voice, or the random freaking filler track that I don't know if they're trying to do like a satire on filler tracks or what they're doing with that.
That was actually, they brought in an electronic producer, like he's a music producer, to do that track for them. I can't remember the guy's name, but that was, yeah. They weren't trying to make a satire, but they actually brought in a fairly well-respected music producer.
And they made something relatively annoying.
To make it for them.
Is this one of those interludes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, it breaks up the album really poorly. I don't know if it's supposed to do that or how that works, but
we can talk about that. But I really want to know what the JJ thought about this album.
All right.
Because I don't care. I really don't. You gotta keep talking.
So I started listening to it pretty soon after it came out, and just a little disclaimer here: I didn't listen to the full album. I don't have the interludes. Where I get my music is actually legal, and
we're illegal. Oh, we do not support pirating. Let's be clear.
I bought the CD.
That's true. Yeah. Well, and Dylan was gonna let me, put it on my phone, but
for some reason, this album is such a bitch to get on your mobile device. I don't know what it is with like the formatting of the tracks or something like that, but I was having a very difficult time. Like, I would put it on my phone and my phone wouldn't even recognize it. It's not that I downloaded it wrong on my computer, because it is in the right file format. It's something with the way the tracks are labeled or something like that, because I had to change everything about them.
There is some tracks on here that aren't even labeled as the roots.
Yeah.
Which they shouldn't be, but that is kind of a thing. That could really screw up your phone.
It did, but the thing was they weren't even showing up in different folders. They weren't showing up, period. And I think you had that problem too.
Yeah,
I put it on your phone and it's just not showing up.
That day you put on the Silver Mount
Zion.
Yeah. And that showed up on my phone, but the roots didn't. So basically, I had to go to use my other music place called Rhapsody, and I got the full album just without the interludes. So
you missed.
So
he basically
nothing.
I mean, he missed very little.
I missed the bad part of it.
Fair warning on, I guess, putting the CD on your mobile device. Just be aware that can be a little challenging.
Maybe it was just me. Maybe I was just having problems with it, but I thought it was just my cell phone, because my cell phone's been
fault.
kind of, it was
I was trying to save you.
My cell phone's just kind of been like temperamental lately, and I thought it was probably just me. And then I put it on JJ's, and it wouldn't go onto JJ, so it's making me think that it might be my computer, or it's the album itself. Right. So I blame the album because I like my computer.
So without interludes, I actually have a question.
Yeah.
What's the first track that plays?
Never.
Okay. Yeah. Because you don't have that opening track, the Nina Simone track, theme from the middle of the night. I was just curious about that.
Okay.
We should talk about that.
Yeah, so, it opens with
Street Dreams. Close your eyes. You need to go higher, JJ.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying.
Street Dreams.
So with what you got, what'd you think?
I too, when I listened to it right away, I was kind of like, the roots, here we go. And the first track was like, oh, that was a little bit of a miss, but, we'll keep going. But the next one is When the People Cheer. I like that. I dig that.
It's an amazing track.
Yeah. Black Rock. I really love the sound of that. I can't say that for a whole many other of the songs in that album. I kind of really feel that in Undone, I really like just about the sound. I like the sound of just about every song. Mm-hmm. And in this album, it's kind of like, there's about, again, like Dylan was saying, maybe 3 or 4 that I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds kind of good. The other ones were like, that sounds boring.
Yeah.
There's just not a whole bunch to it. And I think only the couple of songs do I really actually kind of like the meaning as well, like the words and the lyrics. A couple of them were kind of just like, Okay. So I guess all around it was like but it was still like the songs I did like a lot, right. And good but not great album.
All right, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot to talk about with what this album does, because there's a lot of separate mechanics to it that I think it does wrong. But I think if you're gonna put one word with this album to all the things that I think it does wrong, because I was deeply disappointed in it, I would say lazy.
Lazy.
Everything about this album to me just seemed just kind of rushed together, not completely thought through, and it's just, I could sense that it wasn't something that they took their time on or developed as well with Undone, which I did think they did. Which is surprising to me, because I was like, well, they're playing on Jimmy Fallon 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
And they have to write songs, too, for Jimmy Fallon's show. So they're constantly working while trying to make this album, so I can understand them being rushed. But they did the same thing with Undone. They were on Jimmy Fallon when Undone happened. And that's to me, it was like, okay, well, they're working so much, their creative juices are just constantly flowing, so they're creating the best material. Here, it feels like the exact opposite. Like, they're drained of the creativity, and this is them just attempting to assemble something together.
Okay.
And I mean, we could start anywhere. I think we should start with the concept.
Yeah, a concept album, for those that don't understand it, which I found is kind of a lot of people, what's a concept album? They kind of have an idea with the album that they're going with, like there's a message behind it,
Or
a story,
yeah.
or an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire album revolves around instead of a bunch of separate tracks.
Exactly.
And with Undone, it was...
it was a story.
Yeah, it was a story, and it was a man's life told backwards.
Yeah, it essentially Undone followed this one character from his death up to a certain point. It's really about just saying how, at the end of the album, he's a good man. He's honorable. You could say, but he's trying to lead a straight life. And he's like, I'll never get involved in that gangster life. And then when you go to the beginning of the album, it's actually his death due to him getting involved in that life of crime. Mm-hmm. And so the album is a journey of seeing this transition of him kind of being corrupted by necessity for most of it. But it was fascinating to look at.
And it was an amazing album in terms of sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This concept album, Black Thought came out and said, it's more vague. It's going to be about people.
Yes.
And more than one idea than just one straight character like we did before. And I don't think it worked very well.
I mean, from my understanding, with it being vague, it's kind of like, that just means it's a normal album. Like, think of it what you will, whereas a concept is kind of like, it's trying to lead you somewhere. I came to this podcast, I tried to think of it all for myself. I was like, I don't want to look it up. And honestly, I got nowhere. Like, I have no clue what the hell it's supposed to be about.
We were talking about that, and we were saying, like, okay, there's certain things we're getting at, like, certain motifs we're finding here.
God,
like, with, like,
songs?
religion
Yeah.
and stuff. And, like, the closest thing I could find with this is that it seems as though when the album starts, it's kind of godless. And then the further it goes, there's more discussion of him until, like, toward the end when you have the unraveling. And Tomorrow, the final track. Like, that's like complete submission to God, and now God is a sign of hope. As where before, it was this whole doubting of his existence, that this land is so barren. And that's the best thing I could get. And I think Dylan was right. I think it's like a bunch of separate characters for each song, kind of just describing their life in the street.
Yeah.
But like we were kind of saying, it's just not near as clear. The story and the message isn't near as clear as it was in Undone, and it's not near, for me, it wasn't near as resonating. It didn't affect me near as much.
Right.
Kind of because of the vagueness. Like, I'm still not sure what they're going for.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest problem with the album right there. I mean, because
I don't know, Dylan.
it really is, because this is what the rest of the problems stem from. It's because they have a laziness with the concept that everything else just seemed to, fall into place.
I can understand. I mean, I don't think the concept was my biggest issue with it. I mean, to me, it was just individually each song. Like, we can just go into this. I think the production on this album is boring and repetitive, and kind of samey. Like, it's like there's 3 tracks for sure that are just completely dependent upon a drum line, and just this drum pattern and piano, and that's it. And there's one track, When the People Cheer, I really enjoy. I really enjoy that track, but the other 2 which I know one of them's Tomorrow, and I think the other one is Dark. It was the Dark Trinity.
Okay.
Those tracks, like the piano is just, it's like it never goes anywhere, and it's just sort of boring. Except for Tomorrow. The end of Tomorrow has this really nice like, plush outro. But besides that, it was just like it was very samey. It was like very dependent upon these piano lines. That was just very redundant, and they also like the songs never kind of explore. Like it's like they seem so underthought. Like, okay, here's the bones of this music, but they didn't really get deep into it. Like there's very little sampling on this album at all. Like it's just barely there. And I was like, what? That's like a staple of hip hop that gives you some diversity with your music. So I don't know. But what do you guys think?
I agree with that repetitiveness. The Dark Trinity is a song that the first time I heard it, I was actually like, oh, it's pretty simple, but I kind of like it. But it's actually probably one of their longer songs.
Mm-hmm.
And the more listens that I gave the album, trying to give it as much of a chance as it can get, the more I started to think, yeah, Dark Trinity isn't really like all that good sounding.
It's such an odd, like the piano like line that they have in that is so, I don't know, it's just so draining. Like
I mean, I guess I sort of thought like with it being called The Dark, and then I think Trinity is in like parentheses or something. It's like you can kind of see that maybe it's like a dark time for the story of this person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I do see how, but there's that same drum line going the entire time, and the piano goes like, kind of has like the same, I don't know, tones played, and then all of a sudden it might like change it for one beat or something, and then it goes back, and then it kind of changes. So it's like I was intrigued by that the first couple times, and then as I started to like kind of remember what was coming, it was like, oh, it's all right.
Yeah. I mean,
I was just gonna say, the repetitiveness, for a couple of the songs really got to me. The Coming, like it's a short song. It's like 3 minutes. It's longer than I thought it was, but that song is really. I was okay with it at first, but it's one of those songs that just kind of fell out of grace.
That song especially, like, it needed to do something.
Yeah.
It just needed to.
And it didn't.
And, well, it kind of does at the end. Like, it turns into a different song. It has this kind of, like, chaotic instrumental thing that happens. But I agree with you in that whole beginning is so uninteresting. And especially, it's like, we're not ever going to look for this in the Roots, and the Roots just didn't know how to create a track like this. That was kind of more like a trip hop, almost, because it's focusing on the singer. But I agree with you. Like, The Coming, every single time that track came out, I was just like, oh god, I gotta get through this.
And in contrast, The Unraveling grew on me a lot. Like, I really, really liked that track.
I wasn't big on Unraveling at all in the beginning, and it's only recently that I've actually started, like, I really appreciate that track. That track, we can go into this later, but the track has one of the few choruses that I really enjoy.
I do too, and that's why I like it so much. I mean, I think there's one verse on that track, and for the most part, it's just the chorus. And it's a really good chorus.
That Black Thought verse on Unraveling is
really
great.
good.
It's like very deep.
I don't remember how either of those two go. Do you like?
So The Coming is the girl, and she's like,
I hear somebody screaming.
It's like
again.
Okay.
And then it goes in that like these like violins and pianos that are kind of like just chaotic and like it's kind of losing its mind really. And then the Unraveling is it's got a really interesting, I think, drum pattern, like, and it's got the guy who's like, I'm somebody new, free of my sins today. I feel like I'm washed away.
Yeah, okay.
A man with no
future.
Yeah.
We should sing this album. They're very similar. It's just, I think Unraveling does a lot better.
That's what that's why I put them both together.
I think kind of talking about The Dark, and you're saying like the more you listen to it, I think that's kind of just an example of how this album has nothing to dig into. Like, first listens, the songs are so simple you don't really notice it, but it's like the more you really try to actually like get into this album and kind of get your teeth into it, you realize that there's nothing there. There's nothing to really kind of keep you coming back because it's so dry. It has so little to it that it's kind of boring in that sense.
Yeah, a lot of the albums that I've kind of listened to in the past have been ones that I listened to maybe for like 2 or 3 months because, I don't know, I just either don't want to move on to anything else because I'm so sucked in, or like, you know, every time you put those headphones in, you kind of like hear a new little note that you didn't hear before.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, oh, you know, you always seem to learn more about it, like the more you listen to it. But with this one, I was really like, well, I'll keep listening to it because maybe I'll find what the idea of this album is. And I never found it, which is like, either I'm just like incompetent or they're not giving me anything. And I guess the sound too, you know, just like, I really tried to, you know, find those notes I couldn't hear before, but it was like, no, you know, first couple listens through is all it really took to be like, oh, yep, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I, especially with that, and also just, it's not just the music, but with the lyrics, the rapping on this is also, like, for me, it was very forgettable. And I love Black Thought. Like, Black Thought's one of my favorite MCs.
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing. But here, it was like, he did not blow me away. He, like, I honestly feel like a lot of the tracks were like, he just kind of threw this together, which even Black Thought throwing a verse together is pretty competent, pretty good.
He's still better than, you know, Pitbull.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, but I just honestly wasn't stunned with him, and also there's not that much of Black Thought. There's like only 6 verses, which was disappointing. Not that like Dice Raw or Greg Porn, which are the other 2 MCs you're gonna see on here, aren't good. They're actually, I think they're very good, but they're also kind of the same thing where it's
forgettable.
Like, yeah, exactly. Not that much memorable lines coming across, which is also kind of that second element of like that's so disappointing because this is a rap album when it is rapping, which it rarely is. Which kind of goes into me thinking like this is like the artiest album they've ever done. Yeah, I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I was actually just gonna point that out because a lot of the songs in this album, they stray into that, and I was getting that feeling as I was listening to it, like this is different than anything else they've ever done. I mean, like I've never had them actually like reach into this kind of music before. I mean, with songs like, you know, The Coming and Unraveling or whatever, those are kind of some more artsy tracks than what they're used to doing. And you can tell. I mean, it still has a roots sound. This album still definitely has the roots sound.
Yeah.
But it's, like you said, lazy. It's not as in-depth and well thought out as the previous ones. And the biggest thing that I can say about that is when you look at Undone, you know, immediately I think of that, you know, fantastic outro to like Make My.
Yeah.
And like the beat to, you know, One Time, even though it's simple, but it works so effectively. Or, you know, just that entire album. It's like I don't really have any of those standout moments in this album.
And it's all diverse too.
Yeah.
Like it all has like it's to constantly giving you different sounds. Like here's a sampling track, but then here's like this here's just like here's the booming track, and then here's Make My, which is something completely different. Like from anything hip hop. I mean, so there's a lot of diversity there, so it's so easy to keep listening to because it's always giving you something new. Which, you know, as we were talking before, this album just doesn't do that. And I got to talk about this because this kind of some weight, but I just hate almost all the choruses on this album. I think they're all terrible.
I like When the People Cheer and The Unraveling.
Okay, I'll give 2 exceptions. 2 exceptions actually, because that was hyperbolic. When the People Cheer is a really good song, and I really like that chorus as well. I also like the chorus for Understand.
Yeah.
Which is good. And like we said before, Unraveling was kind of growing on me. But besides that, god damn, these are just nasty choruses. That freaking The Dark, I think it was Greg Porn doing that. Oh my god, that was so annoying. It was like, well, I ain't ready for people like me. It's like,
I
shut
definitely hated
up.
that voice.
I was like, like there's so many voices here. They're just like, God, when we talk about Never, that singer's so annoying. She's so annoying on that track. And I know you like Black Rock, JJ.
Yeah.
I hate that verse on Black
Oh
Rock.
yeah, the chorus on Black Rock is terrible.
You know, like I like Black Rock because to me it's like the most interesting sound. I think a lot of the other songs sound boring, and it's hard for me to like really want to listen to a song to like, you know, find its meaning if I can't even like enjoy the sound.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the-
Black Rock has that like kind of vintage feel to it. You know, it's really unique, and so I love that sound, and it lets me go into the chorus. And I know you don't like it, but I don't think it's that bad.
I
Okay.
don't like that chorus at all. It annoys me. But that's one of the few tracks that actually uses samples effectively.
That has the most going on in it. Like it's
Yeah.
like you're right
Yeah.
about that vintage sound. Like they totally like convert it to like, okay, this is coming out of an old stereo box with a record playing on it.
Right.
Like that sounded good, and there's sampling, and like they had a lot going on, which I thought it was a good beat. I wasn't blown away by it, but there was the most going on. It was most enjoyable. But that chorus, it's as though like they took him and they're just like, okay, go, and like he just had to make something up at the top of his head, and he just like and he just kept going and going, and he didn't really know when to end it, so it went for way too long. It's not memorable at all. And
I remember you saying that you thought it was too long, but I actually listened to the album on my way here, and When the People Cheer has a really, really long chorus, too.
Yes, but it works.
It does, but, I mean...
Because her voice is beautiful.
like exactly, his singing isn't even really that good. It's like
It's
they
not.
didn't do anything to it. It's just like, okay, this is what it is. And I don't know. I just thought Black Rock could have been a really good song if it wasn't for that damn chorus. And like, I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
I was listening to it and I was singing along with it,
Oh, yeah.
but I was just like,
It's a little bit hollow.
yeah, exactly, it's hollow. Like every time I thought, I was like, I'm not digging this at all.
But it's the only one that, like, I mean, with the other songs you can kind of sing along to it, but this one's like, yo, what's for breakfast? You know, like,
yeah.
it's funny, you know, I don't know. I just enjoy that song the most, even though it may not be their best.
like from a production, but also I think from a lyrical standpoint, as far as the rapping, that's the song I have forgotten the lyrics the most at all.
Okay.
Like, yeah, except for that one Dice Raw set track where he's talking about like weed, and he's like, they look like cops, but what do I know? He's like, hey, like that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's another thing, is this album doesn't have any standout lyrics that are just pointing, like, just right looking at me. Like, you know, I don't, you know, this is the how I'm gonna sum up this album quick. Once you've had the best, better ain't as good.
Oh!
Yes, right there. This doesn't. It's better. But it's just not as good, and like I don't hear an awesome lyric like that, you know.
Dylan,
Give me something.
You might
know?
only find that one time, man.
It's
like here's like, and you didn't hear the transition tracks. Bro.
No.
They do like nothing. for
No,
this album.
absolutely
like,
nothing.
Like there's the one with the devil.
Yeah,
like with all those like those bellowing voices.
Come down.
It makes no sense why it's there. It has like it has no build. Like there's no rising tension. Like I think that's why the song never fails so much, because it's possibly the most artsy track on here because it goes through so many changes. But you never feel any rising tension. So in the time that never has this this just big climax, it's like, well, I felt none of that because it transitioned terribly. That's just bad songwriting, in all honesty. And you also didn't hear the first track, which is not a song they wrote at all. They actually just took off a Nina Simone track, which is an amazing song, actually. I really like that song. But it makes no sense for it to be there because it never comes back, and it's just sort of its own thing. So it's like, okay, you just took this Nina Simone track, and you just put it in there, and it makes no sense. Like, I wish they would have put it in somewhere else, because then it would have kind of tied the album together. But instead, it's just like, okay, it's here, whatever. Yeah, which I was really disappointed by, because I love Nina Simone. They ruined her.
Yeah, going to the lyrics, the ones that kind of really seemed to stand out to me were from Understand, like the chorus where, I don't exactly remember how it goes, but basically like when men see God, they just turn around and run, or I don't know. You can sing it for me, Dylan.
Once you started, I know it.
People ask for God
till the day come.
See God's face.
Turn around and run. God sees the face of a man shaking his hand, says he never understands.
Like, I think that's kind of cool, because, like, you know, I think it just shows that, like, men are almost kind of like afraid of God, and you know, like there's a lot to be said there, and that you know, when I first heard that, I was like, oh,
yeah, and it's memorable too. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's actually really catchy.
yeah. Can't say that about a whole bunch of like other lyrics.
Yeah,
though.
exactly. Like, Understand is a really awesome track. Like, I really like it, especially the way it comes in with those drums, and they're just freaking pounding. Like, I really like that, and I like the lyrics on it too. Like, I thought it was like, this is pretty solid. I think Understand is possibly the strongest track on this album. Yeah.
And we still can't remember any of the lyrics
Yeah,
in
yeah.
it, except for the chorus.
Yeah.
No,
also
I remember some of the things where it's like
Alright.
you got Greg Porn, and he's like, I need a nun to come and resurrect my erection.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And I was like,
Okay.
yeah, man, that's
Resurrect
pretty
my
solid,
erection.
man.
Yeah, we were talking about Undone and how memorable that is. Like, I probably haven't even heard that album in many months, maybe borderline a year, but I can kind of go through in my head and be like, go through every song and, oh yeah, there's that cool little riff of the guitar and like, come get your cool on,
Yep.
stars
And-
on me.
And just little lines that
Yeah.
you'll never forget. Like,
Well,
they're so
like,
done.
I just want a bottle of place to write my novel.
I was just thinking that. I was like,
it's-
oh, it's such a
Dose
good
to
lyric.
heroin, or, I don't know if that's... no one's in the line.
But it's probably because we were like so enamored by it, we just kept listening and listening and listening.
Right.
I am not coming back to this album. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm so glad we can move on, even though I think we're moving on to a worse album. I'm so
Oh,
glad I
yeah.
can finally start listening to something new. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, I was already kind of finding... We probably had 2 weeks to listen to this, I'd say. At least I gave two
yeah,
two
so we
weeks.
had
yeah.
a week.
And about
Yeah,
half a week ago, I was already starting to be like, okay, time to listen to some rock again, you know? and I don't know, it's just like, I knew I had to listen to this so I would know what I'm talking about. And I was even still like looking at it like, I'll do something
I
else.
have to admit something.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
Oh,
I want
yeah.
to listen to rock and roll
Yeah.
or
No,
something.
This
Some
is
good rap.
This is how I got around it, and actually, it was in the benefit of the podcast.
Yeah.
Instead of you assholes just going away.
No, I think we did the same thing.
All right. I did talk to you about it. Once I set all my expectations aside and listened to it alone, I started to like it a little bit more and get into some of the tracks. I went, all right, now it's time to officially compare it to Undone. And I would listen to them back to back, and I did that multiple times.
Yeah.
And Then You Shoot Your Cousin holds nothing against Undone. Nothing. This album is inferior in every way, and it just doesn't hold up at all. So, it still has the Roots sound. I'm gonna say that, and it's not a bad album. It's not bad, but it's not Undone. As I said, once you had the best, better ain't as good.
I did the same thing. I mostly went back to Undone to see, because I thought I was like, this is so heavy on piano. Like, and then Your Cousin was so heavy on piano. And I was like, well, I gotta go back because I don't remember Undone being like that at all. Or is the Roots just like that? And then I went back and no, Undone is incredibly diverse. Like every single track is always gonna be something different. So I was like, no, these guys were just like I said, it was lazy because we kind of touched on this, but I just think a lot of these tracks, like, they're not bad. Like, the sounds they have aren't bad. It's just when it goes on for 5 minutes or 2 minutes, because a lot of these songs
Actually,
are short.
no. Most of these songs, like, there's only one that breaches the 5-minute mark, and that's the Dark Trinity.
Yeah.
And that's why the song is so annoying. But the rest of them are, like, seriously, like, 3 minutes or
incredibly
less.
short, not really explored. I think it's like if they could go back to this and like they have this template, they could add something to it. I think it'd be a lot better. Like, just kind of explore a little more, because like I said with the track Tomorrow, the last track, which it starts out in like that piano line is like, okay, and then it's got the singer who's like, he's actually singing fairly well. It's just it's just not interesting.
How does Tomorrow go again?
I God in heaven.
Oh, okay.
Say
Yeah.
I'm thankful to be
It's the one
alive.
happy
No,
track.
I don't mind Tomorrow at all. It was actually one of those tracks that grew on me a lot towards the end of my listening. But songs like The Dark Trinity, The Coming, all the fillers, Never, they were boring. And that's basically half the album.
I mean, well, like what I was going to say about Tomorrow is that beginning is so horrible, but it's not until they go further in and they actually explore it and they like add in this like really lush like reverb and like the piano.
No.
It was great, But the problem with that last part was, it was like, it still felt underexplored. It was like I don't know about you guys, but every single time that last part of the album came, it was just really heavy piano and kind of like, ooh, like this would send you off. I couldn't help think like, okay, they could add this, or they could add like a female singer. Like, I was like, there's so much that should be added. Just give that last push of excellence, but they did not do that. And I'm not trying to say that every single album needs to be more is more, and some of my favorite albums are very like restrained and there's very little to them, but for me it wasn't interesting. Jesus, this needs more to it. This is so easy to digest.
It needs more cowbell. Anything.
You know, I'll take cowbell.
I'll take it.
I'll take Will Ferrell, goddammit. And that's saying something. But, I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else you guys want to say about this?
Honestly, no, I got in what I wanted to say.
Okay.
So, we'll do ratings.
You do ratings? All right.
JJ.
All right. I'll go first. I'd say baseline, like, one-line review, pretty unmemorable. Like, you might find a little enjoyment out of it when you're listening to it, but I don't think it's going to really last with you, especially compared to Undone. Undone, I already remember more. Like today, I've already asked you guys probably in 3 or 4 songs how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I never have that problem with Undone. It's like, oh
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And is this out of 5 stars?
It's a 5-star system.
You know, I was really kind of thinking right away that I'm like, it's not too good, and then I listened to it a little bit more, and it might have like been pushing like 4 stars, but I gotta go maybe like 3.25. 3.5. I don't know.
Well, we do 0.5.
Okay.
So.
All right. So
We let you on once, so fuck up our system.
Yeah. God damn it, JJ.
Don't trick up Daniel. For one listener.
I would say okay, then 3.5. Good. Maybe I'll listen to it a couple more times in the future, but it's not gonna stick with me. I gotta balance out John's 2. I don't know. I'm really scared of what John's gonna give it.
John?
Dylan, I think you should go.
No, you go first. You take it. It's you.
Okay, so I mean,
oh god,
I'm clearly I didn't like this album at all, and I was like, every time I listened, it was like, no, it's horrible. It's getting like, it's the lowest
horrible
ratings. But you know what? And then I was like, wait a minute, John, I gotta be regional here. There's songs I like on here. I like When the People Cheer. I really did like that track a lot. I like the song Unforgettable. I mean, Unforgettable. Understand. I like the song Understand because it was unforgettable. And then, like I said, that one track was going on here. But everything else was bad. I was skipping so much. I was just waiting for it to be done. That's not good. That's a poor album. You said When You Had the Best, Better Ain't As Good. This isn't better. This is like lesser ain't as good. And to me, it's a lesser album. I'm giving it a 2 out of 5.
A 2. Wow.
That's low.
Wow.
And I'm gonna just wash my hands and be done with it.
God damn, that's even lower than I expected.
I don't know. From all the shit John was talking, I'm like, dear God, like, so help us, like, just understand, okay?
There's a special place in hell for albums that are in the 1-star area. This isn't quite there, but
I can't believe it got so close.
This is your warning room.
Oh boy! All right.
If they actually listen, maybe it'll be part of our 10 viewers or 10 listeners.
We can bring on Questlove as a guest.
We'll bring it on the Jimmy Fallon show.
There we go.
Okay. This album, I don't think it's terrible. I really do not. I think that compared to a lot of other, hip-hop albums that have come out in the past year that are, more, like, well-known, this would blow them out of the water.
Okay.
And
like, can I get examples?
Okay. Anything Pitbull, Lil Wayne, alright, just those are the 1-star. Yes, they have a reserved place in John.
Okay, I was gonna say like how you're comparing fucking this album to Lil Wayne.
I know.
It's better than that.
Let me finish, you son of a bitch! God damn it!
It's better than the worst of the worst, so it can't be bad.
It is. But the thing is people actually listen to the Roots.
Mm-hmm.
This album isn't bad. It has the Roots sound. It has a few tracks on here that are really good.
Okay.
That I really like. You know, When the People Cheer, Understand, The Unraveling. I like Tomorrow, and I arguably like Black Rock.
Yeah,
It's not a bad song. It's got a bad chorus, but it's, you know, they're all right. That's saying that. Half the album is not very good at all. In fact, it's terrible. But I think that this other half doesn't make up for it, but it helps.
Okay.
And I would listen to this album, and I don't regret listening to this album. And as a result, you know, I will say, go listen to Undone. If you're looking for a hip-hop album from this year, go listen to Pinata. I think that album is way better.
See, I was just going to say, I was like, I'm giving this 2. I'm giving this a, don't listen to this and go listen to Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. Because they're doing good.
Yeah, Pinata with Freddie Gibbs and Madlib is amazing. It's really, really well done. And this album, it deserves a 3. All right. A 3. Because here's what I'm going to say. 2.5, that's an average. You know, that is right in the middle. You get a 50%. That's an F.
All right.
I'm giving it a 3 because I think this is a little bit better than that middle crop. Just a little bit better.
Okay.
And you know what? Next week, you're going to fucking give me something even worse. I gave a 4, a 3.5, a 3, and you're going to make me give out a 2.5 next week.
Dylan, you can't ruin it for the people.
So if 3 is, if 2.5 is average, 3 is
good.
Better than good.
I say like 3 is good.
What's 3.5?
3.5 is 3.5 is a, you know, it's better. Like it's
like come on, we're trying to like do this thing between 1.5. It's pretty hard.
Okay, I don't know.
Basically, it's kind of like 1. All right, so 0 is like, you know, bottom of the barrel. Fuck you.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, you know, 1 is it's just terrible. It's complete dog shit.
2 is not the Roots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 is like.
Oh,
2 is like,
I see what you're going for here.
This is bad.
Okay.
Like this is not a very good album at all.
Okay.
And I would say 3 is like,
good.
It was okay.
Okay.
Like
okay.
I don't want to give a 3 an average because 3 is a good score.
Okay.
Yeah, but is it
like
3?
like,
3 is like a 60%. That's a D minus. That's like saying, you barely scrape by.
No, I wouldn't quite go in that sense. Like I'm not gonna put it like in a percentage. I would say like because we're giving it stars. I mean that's a pretty big honor to get a star.
Yeah.
I've never got a star, Dylan. Unless I was like 3rd
I
grade.
did. You want a star, John?
When I got my spelling thing right, but besides that, you know, I would say it's like the middle mark, like where we have like
3 is middle mark.
Is your kind of.
Oh.
It's like 3 is for your. I think this is good, and then like everything in the other, like it's kind of in the middle, and in the middle it's like this is just good. It's serviceable, as some would say. Okay, and then the other spectrum, you're like go to 4, that's excellent. 5, and then the 5 is the holy shit, and then and the other spectrum is you go to 2 and this is bad, and then 1 is atrocious. That's just my.
Okay.
It's like when you go from the middle and then you just kind of spread out.
So
all right, fine.
If we say like Undone,
my 3 still stands because this was serviceable and I still enjoyed it and it was good. So
fair enough.
Fuck you.
Fuck this album.
No, it wasn't that bad.
All right.
No.
Anything else we got to cover for this?
Recommendations for albums. I kind of already touched on it.
Dylan, you can actually give out recommendations on this.
Pinata and Undone. If you're looking for an album from this year, as we said, Pinata by Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. Amazing production, and somehow Freddie Gibbs gets on there, and his gruffness works.
I would also add, if you're not really digging the songs as much, if you listen to this album, but you like that sort of darker tone and that grittiness to it, I would say check out Mobb Deep's.
Oh yeah.
The Infamous, or just Nas's. I mean, we're naming off the greatest albums ever.
Classics.
But, I mean, they like we said, this is going for a kind of this darker tone, which I think is something that older albums did, and we can name off the best hip hop albums of all time, and those albums did it really well. So those are the recommendations I can give. JJ?
If you're listening to this album and you're like, you know what, I need a little bit of break, the album I went to was No Devolution by Thursday.
So we'll talk about some rock and roll.
Yeah. Good,
So,
JJ. Yeah, breaking genres.
This is why you need JJ on.
To balance out the
JJ.
hip hop heavy.
Yes. All right.
No,
I'm
otherwise
just
I would
messing.
just say go listen to Undone.
Yeah, that's
if
my
you haven't
recommendation.
listened to Undone yet, and you're like, oh, the Roots, they have a new album. I didn't get the time to listen to the other one. Stop being stupid and go listen to Undone because it's up there in some of the.
If you
cool,
couldn't tell,
one
we
of the
talked
best.
about it
Yeah.
half this podcast.
Yeah. So also, just as far as on hip hop, I'll give out some quick news. New Death Grips got released. last
Oh,
night.
Oh my
Yeah,
God!
it
Is
was
that
last-
4?
That's 5 actually.
That's
Five?
what we should do next week, John.
Oh.
You done?
Its
Yeah.
time will come.
No, John!
I don't want to be yelled at this week. Okay, so I think that's all we got for today.
That's what we do.
Yeah, thank you for listening. We got a few things to talk about. So of course you can find us on SoundCloud. However, since there is a price, use SoundCloud. We did have to archive our material to YouTube. So if you want to listen to our older reviews, our movie reviews, our album reviews, you want to see
The weekly soap.
if you want to see the weekly soap, we have all that. Go to YouTube. We'll actually have a lot of links to take you there. But our newer material,
If you're a weekly listener,
yeah, if you want to see the newest thing, Daniel, head on over to SoundCloud and check out our stuff. And we thank you for listening.
Thank
We
you
think
too
we're
for
getting
having me.
better. Yes, this is JJ. We hope to have him back sometime.
Oh,
whenever
yeah.
he wants, and other guests, of course, because that's what we promise: celebrity guests like JJ. So
Thank you, Dylan, for having me. John.
yeah.
well,
No, just
I'm
thanks,
Dylan.
John.
I am John.
and this is Musical
No, hold on. We'll do it again.
All right,
I'm
all right.
sorry, boys. I'm sorry.
All right.
And JJ, join us.
Okay.
I'm Dylan.
I'm John.
I'm JJ.
And this is
Musical Suds!